What's going on, Bottom Line viewers? It's Dylan and Mike here from the Bottom Line View. Mitch is not on. We've been trying to get this stream going on for a while, but it's not working for him. So he just decided, you know what, you two go ahead and stream this one for the Sunday night football game. Thanks for that, because it was a 45-10 game here, Mitch. A blowout that was oddly enough flexed into this role. It was not the Sunday night football game up until like 2 weeks ago. And here we are with the Chiefs absolutely dominating from start to finish. The Chiefs offense putting up a lot of points, a lot of contributors here, not just the Patty Mahomes story, but a lot of guys getting involved. The Chiefs improved to 6-1, and the Bengals are now 4-3. Just off the top, Mike, what are you thinking? What was the impressions you got from this game, and what do you think overall?
Well, obviously, I think the Cincinnati Bengals are not a team that we kind of thought that they were. This whole year, people were kind of rating them fairly high, but now I couldn't. I wouldn't put them in my top 10 teams. I think they're about to start falling off the rails. If they miss the playoffs, this should finally be the year Marvin Lewis sees his head on the chopping block, just because he's been in this job since 2003. It was another dominant performance by the Chiefs, and you have to give them credit. They've been doing it week in, week out. Need the Patriots week. That's the thing. The Chiefs still don't have a good defense. So if you can hold them, bring them into a shootout, high-scoring game, they are beatable. They're not a team that is going to roll the entire way. Historically, Andy Reid teams aren't very good in the playoffs or down the stretch, or December, January football. So we'll see with them a little bit more, but tonight's game, they just absolutely tore them apart. They ran similar plays throughout the entire night, and the Bengals just couldn't stop it. So I think once you kind of get in a hole and then throw a pick six, the game just kind of ends. You could tell the Bengals were playing deflated, especially after the Andy Dalton pick six to start the second half there. So it was a blowout. It was a blowout fairly early, and it's a little disappointing that they flexed to this game. I know they were expecting a little bit more, because both teams at that point, I believe when they flexed it, there's only one loss between the two. So it's disappointing to end your week. We do have the Monday night game tomorrow, but that Sunday night game, you usually want the game of the week. So a little disappointing all in all.
Yeah, and that Monday night game's the Giants and the Falcons. So maybe we'll see a shitstorm. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Very interesting game going forward here with the result that we had. Actually, enough, the Thursday night game and the Sunday night game both ended with a 45-10 score. Who knew? The Chiefs' offense was rolling. Like you said, the biggest thing is, can they keep it going? We saw it last year, specifically 5-0. They lost last week, which made it 5-1. And we saw them kind of collapse into a wild card game where they lost to the Titans. We're going to see if that happens this year, but a little bit of different changes. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback. Maybe he's going to get that team down the stretch. But the biggest thing is, like you said, Andy Reid kind of just flexes the fact that he has a lot of plays on offense and has a lot of guys that can do it, like Tyreek Hill. But are they able to get it done down the stretch? We'll find out later. But so far, they're getting it done when they need to. So, yeah, 45-10 is the score. We're going to look at some of the big players from both teams and just kind of evaluate going forward. Andy Dalton here for the Bengals, 15-29, 148 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. This was the Dalton that I was expecting this season coming in. Dalton's kind of outperformed what I was expecting, or expectations, I should say. And it wasn't an explosive night for him. He was not making exactly the best throws out there. And, other than A.J. Green, there wasn't really a big target for the Bengals. And even then, the second half, A.J. Green didn't do much. So it was basically, let's have Andy Dalton throw out there and see what happens, make the best of it. But he did not do well. Joe Mixon, 13 carries for 50 yards. Receiving-wise, A.J. Green, 7 catches for 117 yards. Tyler Boyd, big disappointment this week on the offense, especially if you're a fantasy guy. 3 catches, 27 yards. Not much production there. Mike, what did you think about the Bengals offense?
Offensively, I thought the play calling is what really held them back. Once they shifted the safety over to double team A.J. Green, because he was lighting it up in that first quarter. I believe he went over 100 yards in the first quarter. But then really tailed off after that once they put the other guy over top. They didn't utilize Mixon enough. They weren't creative enough offensively. Uzuma, tight end, he really, after a great week against Pittsburgh, he really didn't do much. So I think they need to utilize their guys better. It's, again, falls on a coaching. Mixon doesn't get enough touches. 13 carries isn't enough, especially a team that can score as quickly as the Chiefs. The best way to win those games is by having your offense on the field for long periods of time. You got to do that by grinding the clock, 5-yard run plays, play action, dumping it off your tight end. Sure, your number one target is double covered. You don't have to throw him the ball. You see that in Pittsburgh now more so than in years past. Antonio Brown is seeing those double coverages. The ball's not being forced there. Cincinnati, they weren't forcing it to AJ Green once he started getting double teamed, but they're basically just, I honestly can't even explain it. They're going 3 and out so fast that it's just kind of disappointing football again. It falls on the offense coordinator. They got to make up better game plans and call better plays, especially for those situations.
Yeah, definitely. The biggest thing for me, like you said, was where was Mixon? This is a guy that has been producing well. He's been making the right plays. And once you take away AJ Green, who is the number one target, you got to go to somebody like that who can be that explosive. And the Kansas City defense has not nearly, has been terrible over the course of the first 6 weeks, however long it's been. Just not making the right plays and the right calls to win this game. And it's got to be a little bit deflating going in, realizing that this Chiefs defense was the worst in the league, and you weren't able to contribute much all the way around. So got to agree with what you said there. Mitch, I guess we're not going to ever get Mitch in here. He just comes in one moment, and it's never happened. Offensively for the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, 28 for 39 today, 358 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. He continues the impressive streak, 6 consecutive games of over 300 yards passing. They mentioned some people that haven't even done that more than 3 times, like Brett Favre, Dan Marino, John Elway. So great Hall of Fame talent there. And he's the youngest to ever do it. Kareem Hunt, 15 carries, 86 yards, and a touchdown. He also had 5 catches for 55 yards and 2 touchdowns. That guy was electric today. And Spencer Ware came in and pitched in 8 carries for 59 yards. Mahomes also had 4 carries for 45 yards. So I think the rushing game for Kansas City is pretty set, all things considered. Kelce, 5 catches for 95 yards. Watkins, 4 catches, 74 yards. Tyreek Hill, 7 catches, 68 yards, and a touchdown. That doesn't even count for the fact that he dropped a pass in the end zone. That would have been another 40. And yeah, that's about it. Personally, for me, the offense for the Chiefs was looking really stout. The interception by Mahomes was very errant, but again, they were up 4 touchdowns. It's not going to be the end of the world. That's what's basically been the interception problem for Mahomes. He's making good throws. You just see how dynamic he is. He had a fumble at the 5-yard line, goes to the other side of the field and throws it to Tyreek Hill for a touchdown. It doesn't seem like anything can phase him. And put in pressure situations, he's making the right throws to the right guys, and he's spreading the ball out to the whole team. How many people caught a ball today? 8 people. That's something that you got to look at. And Harris even had a touchdown for himself in his only catch. So it seems like that's not really an issue. And just how stout this offense is with Mahomes, Hunt, Kelce. Watkins is looked at as the number 4 guy, number 3, number 4 guy. And it's like it's not even that bad of an option. So what did you think about the Chiefs offense tonight, Mike?
Dominant. There's really not too many ways to describe it. Kareem Hunt was a beast. Tyreek Hill flew around the field as per usual. Patrick Mahomes, cannon arm. If there's one thing I noticed, maybe he's not the most accurate with the football, but he makes such great decisions. And in a league where teams are afraid to throw it deep, because I think play calling wise, teams are just afraid not to lose. Like they're playing not to lose rather than playing to win. So instead of taking those kind of high risk, deep down the field shots, they're typically offenses are throwing those short to medium range passes, the check downs, swinging out to running backs. But the Chiefs are playing it differently. They're throwing the ball down the field. I think NFL defenses just aren't prepared for it because they don't see it anymore. So week after week, they've been doing this and dominating. So eventually, will it catch up on them? We don't know. I guess we'll see as time goes on here. But there's definitely some incredibly talented and gifted players on this Chiefs team. Like Kelce, you can just throw him the ball and he's going to run over some DBs. Like there's so many guys to mention. Like Watkins had some nice catches deep downfield. So again, arguably the best or the second best offensive football right now, doing their thing again. That's just another great night.
And you know what the biggest thing is that if you take away one guy, there's going to be another guy to step up. That's how dangerous this offense can be. Talking about you can't play a whole game without taking one guy out. It's going to be impossible because if you take Tyreek Hill out, okay, Kareem Hunt can come in and rush for over 100 yards. Okay, we're going to take Kareem out. All right, Travis Kelce's our big man. It's just how explosive this offense is. Like you said, either this team or the Rams, which, by the way, a little less than a month away. That's going to be a huge game to watch out for. We'll see if the Chiefs can really beat somebody big, because that is one of the knocks on this team, Mike, is that have they beaten anybody? The Bengals came out here where we were talking about maybe they're pretenders or contenders. You don't really know. They lost to the Patriots, but they did put up 40 points. So most times you're going to get the victory. But the Jaguars, they're 3-4. Broncos, they're not very good. 49ers, they're not very good. Steelers, they're up there in the AFC North, but that was
first place now on a bye. Go from last to first, crazy, but
that's insane. That is insane. But yeah, I mean, they still had to put up 42 to win that game. They still gave up 37 in that game. That's not hard to win, or that's pretty hard to win. So yeah, that's maybe the biggest question for the Chiefs. Can they win against some of the better teams in the league? And while they're putting up 40 points, that's gonna win you a lot of games if you continue to do that. We'll see if they can do it against some other teams. Let's look here. They got to play the Broncos next week. Maybe it's a little bit better just because they had such a great win last week. Or this week, I should say, on Thursday night. Then they play the Browns, Cardinals. That Rams game is important. Ravens, Chargers, Seahawks. There's a couple of games that can be soon before.
There's some upset potential, we should say. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the Chiefs at 13-3, 14-2 come playoff time. I wouldn't be surprised. But again, could I see them lose to a 6 seed? Yeah, because they haven't done it before. So it's so hard to talk about this team because they're talented, but year in and year out, they fail in the playoffs, just like the Bengals. So, to me, tonight's game was the bowl of overrated coaches. Marvin Lewis never won a playoff game in 15 years as a head coach. What is this, year 16 now? 16. Regardless, Andy Reid, one win in the playoffs in Kansas City. Just what can these guys do? It doesn't matter if you win 15 games in the regular season if you don't win a playoff game. That's what the name of the game is, winning the Super Bowl. So it doesn't matter the yards. It doesn't matter the stats. It doesn't matter the record. The only thing that matters is the trophy, and your trophy gets to the end of the year. And if you don't have one, you're the same as 31 other teams. So that's what it's going to boil down to, is what the hell can the Chiefs do? I would say a winning season for them is making the Super Bowl because they're still so young. Their window is open for a long time. This team, it would be a shame if they didn't win a Super Bowl. Same with the Rams. They're so young. They're so stacked, but they just don't have the track record yet. So I guess we'll see come January, February.
Yeah, and it was also you brought up the Rams. They lost in the wild card last year too. It's kind of where do you go from here? It just feels so bad because all these teams right here are just so young, and the coaching is not there for them. Not in the Rams case. They got a great coach, but in this sense, it sucks. By the way, Marvin Lewis should be fired. I still don't understand how this man has had this long of a tenure in the NFL as the head coach without any playoff wins.
In any other sport, he probably would have lost the second time. That 5-year stretch they made the playoffs, but they lost in the first round every single year. Yeah. Any other sport, I would say the second time that happened, he would have been a coach on the Bengals for about 10 years, 9-10 years at that point, and hasn't won a playoff game yet. And then he lost the second in the first round 2 years in a row. Mm-hmm. That was probably it, because you need to get over the hump. You need to change it. You need to do something different. Some teams, they make that change and boom, they explode. Some teams make the change and the style doesn't really work and they kind of regress and they rebuild. The Bengals are a team right now. They have some thug type players. They have problems in their locker room. They don't win in the playoffs. They went 7-9 last year. What the hell are they doing? Why do you got to keep Marvin Lewis around? He's the second longest tenured coach for no reason. He's not won a playoff game. His best record is 12-4. So it's not like he's doing anything remarkable. I really don't understand it. I feel like this locker room has always had like the diva personalities, and rather than taking control of it, we all want to talk about Mike Tomlin having lost control of the locker room, but the Bengals consistently is ran by the players. Like, it makes no sense to me that this guy still has a job. But like, what are they doing? Move on to the next guy. Have someone with a little more, I don't know, that cares a little more. It's someone that screams, someone that's going to change something. It's the same thing year in, year out with the Bengals. Something's got to change.
They fall into like a complacency area. They're just like, we're getting paid. We have a team here that, oh yeah, I like this guy. We're gonna beat you up, whatever. But it never leads to any more success than that. And until that changes, the Chiefs are never going to change. Or excuse me, the Bengals are never going to change. They're never going to change their style. They're never going to win more than 10 games. It's kind of sad to watch, but at the same time, it's just like, it's one of the things you can rely on in the postseason. Oh, if they're going to make it there, the Bengals aren't winning the playoff game. It's just not going to happen. Consistently
in the playoffs, what you see is most of the times quarterbacks taking games over. Can Andy Dalton do that? Honestly, no. Can he win you 10 games? Not on his back. If this team was any worse, he's not dragging them to wins like Aaron Rodgers is doing for Green Bay. That's not happening. So when you have a quarterback that I would say is the middle of the road, you could rank him around 16 of the top 32 quarterbacks in the NFL, maybe even lower. You got to start moving towards the next guy. You start just bringing him in. You draft him. It doesn't have to be your first round pick. Dalton is serviceable, but you start bringing guys in the second round, third round, free agency, just to push him. If he doesn't get any better, eventually you have to find someone that's better. It's not working. You have to move on. So Cincinnati has a lot of problems right now, and I think it stems with the coaching staff, and something's got to change.
Yep.
But
I can't agree more.
A weird thing is they've had very successful coordinators that have gone on to other jobs and have been better head coaches than Marvin Lewis. Zimmer, first one that comes to mind. Like, something's got to change.
That's true. And right now, as it stands, the Bengals are the 6th seed in the AFC. So, this loss does hurt them, and they're not in first place in their division. That would be Pittsburgh, like you mentioned. But yeah, they're 4-3, but there's a lot of teams that can come out, right at the heels and do something. Baltimore and Miami are also 4-3. If the Saints or if the Ravens had gotten that victory over the Saints, they would win their division. They'd be in first. Yep. Yeah. So I guess the Bengals
that would push the Bengals out of the playoff spot. Ravens win today.
That's true. Well, actually, they would still be ahead of the Pittsburgh though.
No, Pittsburgh is a bit higher winning percentage. That's why they're in first place of the AFC North. 3-2-1 is a 5.587.
That tie always throws it. I mean, we gotta ask for more ties. Everybody gets a tie.
I hate the tie. I hate it.
At least we only had those first two in the first 2 weeks. I thought maybe we're gonna get a spike in it, but no.
We were close to a couple.
Yeah, pretty close to that Bucks Browns game. I mean,
could have been another one.
Yeah. Every week we've had an overtime game, first off. And then it's just come down to like the craziness of it. First of all, the Browns have had 4. So how do you do that?
They need to reform a lot of overtime, but that's a conversation for another day. It's so bad. They got to do what they do in college. It's the simplest way. Just end on a win.
I'm not a big fan of it just because it's like, you're set up at the 25, but like
push it to 45. Like same thing. It's NFL players. 45? Yeah, and make them go for 2 right off the bat. I think it's better than ties. Like no one goes home happy on a tie.
So what'd you do? Would you also just take away the clock also, and whoever scores wins? Like
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it would be more exciting for sure. I just don't know if the NFL is going to be like super on board. They don't like a lot of changes. That's the big issue. Mm-hmm. I mean, it took them forever to bring back 2-point conversions, for God's sake. So, it is what it is. But a lot of interesting things happened in the NFL today, and the Bengals fall into the 6th seed as a result. And the Chiefs. Actually, let's look at this Bengals schedule because I am interested to see what they do next here. They play next week against the Buccaneers, who came off a thrilling victory against the Browns, and then they're going to go on a bye. And I'm not liking their next 2 games after because they got to play the Saints and the Ravens. Saints is obviously a very difficult contest because they're still one of the better teams, even though everybody overreacted in their first game. Knew that was going to happen. They're 5-1. And the Ravens are going to give them a hard time. Even though the Bengals did win their game earlier on this year, I still think there's a lot of questions between both teams that we have to ask ourselves at this point. So
in reality, I think this AFC North could be wrapped up almost in 2 weeks. Like, you would kind of know who's going to win the division because Pittsburgh plays Cleveland and then Baltimore. If they knocked off Baltimore just because they already lost to them, Pittsburgh wins. I think they win the division. If Baltimore beats Pittsburgh, I think Baltimore will take the division. That's really going to be the AFC North championship game. I think Cincinnati's going to fall out of this race. That's just where it boils down to. They lost to Pittsburgh. Have they played Baltimore yet this year? I'm honestly I'm blanking on that. I don't believe they have yet.
You talking about Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Yeah, they played week.
They did.
They played week. When did they play? Week 2 or week 3?
Okay,
week 2 or
I just forgot.
It was week 2 because they played football.
Oh, okay. But still, regardless, I think I think Baltimore is going to take that next game against Cincy. And once you kind of fall into a multi-game divisional hole, it's so hard to claw back from because you need the other teams to lose. So that's no confidence right now in those Bengals. So we'll see. No. Will they make the move? Stay tuned.
Well, and yeah, like I was thinking, like maybe if they win this game tonight, or even make it a competitive battle in this game, maybe you could see the Bengals winning this division or putting in a big effort. But like you said, once that Andy Dalton pick 6 happened, it was just not even going to give this an effort. So we'll see. Steelers drama has been kept down to a minimum the last week or so. Still questions about that's the keeping crazy. Knock on wood. But we got to see what Le'Veon Bell does. What's the situation with him and Connor? Who's going to get the more carries?
So the rumor on Bell on the street right now is that he's in talks with the Steelers to come back, but I can't remember what the list is called. But basically, what would happen is you can practice, but you wouldn't play for 2 weeks. So he'd be back playing games on week 10, I believe, is what it's like a player something list. I can't remember, but that's what the word on the street is now. So a couple more weeks without Bell, but having him at practice would probably be a good thing.
And who do the Steelers play? Because they're on a bye this week.
Cleveland next in Pittsburgh. And Cleveland's been slumping a little bit since their wins. They're taking everyone overtime, but not I don't like them going into Pittsburgh. That's
quite a task to do. I mean, the first game of the year, it seems like the Steelers kind of you're struggling the first couple weeks of the year, and then
it was a monsoon too. So that was, and Pittsburgh was winning for most of that game, and then a possible missed call. But regardless, that's not game ends in a tie. So it's what happened. It is what it is. It's another day in the NFL.
Oh yeah, the referees kind of screwed my team today, too. So
yeah. The snap thing, that was a horrible. I don't know.
I don't understand.
The NFL was trying to defend it too. I was a long snapper for a long time, so that's garbage. He did the same thing. It's every snapper does the same thing.
I'm looking and I'm like, wait, that's what they're calling? Like, are they sure they got the right replay? Because I don't know what would just happen. And then, like, really, come on now. And Maher misses the field goal anyways. It's a bunch of bullshit. And then my favorite moment of the week is when a broadcaster brings up the fact that Justin Tucker has not missed an extra point his entire career, and then 3 seconds later misses his first of his career. So thank you very much.
They always do it. They jinxed him. But
it's like
we did get a good meme. It's a nice face. It's just terrific.
And it didn't come from Eli. That's good. We need more people like that. So yes. Justin Tucker giving us the moment of the week. I think that's gonna do it. We talked a lot about the Bengals, talked a lot about the Chiefs. Interesting to see going forward. Thanks to Mike for joining on. I know Mitch was not on here, but thank you for joining. Tomorrow we'll be on for the Giants and Falcons recap. That'll be exciting. Maybe for not the best reasons, but at least be interesting as a talking point for a 2-4 and a 1-5 team. So stay tuned for that. And more videos coming out the rest of the week. So for Mike, it's Dylan. Peace out.